I've been a nurse for over 8 years. When I decided to take the night shift at St. James Hospital, I thought it would help my career. The place is old and creaky with flickering lights, but I figured I could handle it. I never expected what would happen those nights. On my 3rd shift, I was making my rounds. It was too quiet, like the calm before a storm. I stopped in front of a room that should have been occupied. I heard humming, soft and sweet, like a child. I hesitated, my heart racing before opening the door. The room was empty. I quickly scanned it. Just a small teddy bear sat on the floor. I picked it up, feeling a chill creep over me. Maybe my mind was playing tricks. I had been working too much. The next night was more unsettling. I was reviewing charts when one caught my eye. Details had changed, notes I hadn't written. I felt a knot in my stomach. As I walked down the hallway, I saw something move out of the corner of my eye. I turned, but there was nothing, just shadows and quiet. Then, on my next shift, I was in the break room when I heard whispers. Soft and low, it felt like someone was responding to me. I looked around, but I was all alone. Cold washed over me. I stepped out, telling myself it was just the stress. Each night brought more of the strange. One patient reported seeing a little girl in his room. I thought maybe he was hallucinating, but when I checked, a chill ran down my spine. I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone. Shadows lurked in the corners of my vision. Something was pulling me toward the old part of the hospital. I found myself back at that empty room. The humming echoed in my ears like a taunt. I pressed my ear against the door, my breath shallow. Maybe I was just tired. I opened the creaky door again, a rush of cold air hitting my face. The teddy bear still lay there. Then I heard the whispers again, clearer this time. "Come play with me," they seemed to say. I felt frozen. And then I saw her. At the end of the hallway, a little girl in a frilly white dress was staring at me. My heart stopped. "What's happening?" I asked silently, too scared to move. Suddenly I understood. The child's laughter floated down the hall, joining the whispers. I knew then I was never alone. The toy teddy bear I held was more than just a toy. It held a secret, one I couldn't comprehend. I don't know what it was, but I could feel it entwined with the haunting echoes of that little girl's presence. Something was deeply connected to that bear, and it was waiting for me to find out what. I turned away from the little girl, my heart racing. I needed to get out of that hallway, but as I took a step back, I hesitated. I didn't want to leave that teddy bear behind. I couldn't explain why, but something compelled me to hold on to it. With trembling hands, I tucked the bear under my arm, feeling its softness against my skin. The child stood still, her eyes wide and unblinking. I forced myself to take another step back, desperate to shake off the paralyzing fear. It felt like a dream, but I knew it was real. I bolted down the hallway, moving faster than I thought possible. I made it to the nurse's station, breathing hard. I pressed my palm against the cool wooden desk, trying to regain my composure. The chatter of the night shift staff buzzed in my ears, but I felt disconnected. I glanced around, searching for any semblance of normalcy. "Hey, you okay?" Susan, a fellow nurse, asked. She noticed my pale face and wide eyes. "You look like you've seen a ghost." I wanted to tell her about the girl, the whispers, the bear. Instead, I shrugged it off. "Just a long night. I'll be fine." Susan nodded but didn't look convinced. She went back to her paperwork and I forced myself to focus. But my thoughts kept drifting back to the bear. I needed to know what it meant. After a few minutes, I decided to take it back to my locker. I also wanted to figure out how to calm the unsettling feelings swirling in my stomach. I walked through the dimly lit corridors, the bear clutched tightly in my hands. As I passed the now familiar room, I heard the humming again. It was louder this time, almost inviting. The door was ajar, and I felt an urge to enter. What was wrong with me? I had to know what lay inside. I pushed the door open, the hinges creaking loudly, and stepped in. The room was the same as before, stale air, empty bed, and shadows dancing in the corners. This time the teddy bear seemed to vibrate in my hands, warming slightly as I moved closer to the bed. That's when I saw it. A small box sitting on the bedside table. It was old, dusty, and covered in a delicate lace cloth. I approached it, my heart racing again. Was this a clue? Something about it felt vital. I reached out, fingers trembling, and pulled the cloth away. Inside, I found a small silver locket. It glimmered under the flickering overhead light, urging me to open it. But I hesitated, a voice whispering for me to back away. I heard the girl's laughter echo in my mind again, intertwined with the whispers from before. "Come play with me," they echoed. Panic washed over me. I couldn't decide if the locket was a way forward or a trap. Then everything went dark. The lights flickered and went out completely, leaving me engulfed in silence. I felt the bear slip from my grasp and hit the floor. I knelt to search for it, heart pounding. Suddenly I heard a soft giggle right beside me. My breath caught in my throat as I realized the little girl was not just a figment of my imagination. Someone was in the room, and it wasn't just the shadows. I froze, my fingers brushing the cool floor as I searched for the teddy bear. The giggle echoed in my ears, sweet yet filled with something darker. I could feel my pulse quicken. Every instinct told me to get out, but the pull of curiosity kept me rooted. "Who's there?" I managed to whisper, my voice trembling. No answer came, only silence, thick and suffocating. I felt the weight of the room shift around me, shadows blending and blurring in my vision. I fumbled again for the bear, desperate to cling to something familiar. Just as my fingers closed around the soft plush, the laughter returned, this time playfully taunting. "Come play with me." It was right next to me, impossibly close. Heart pounding, I scrambled to my feet, clutching the bear tightly. I turned, scanning the darkness. The dim glow from the hallway barely illuminated the space, but I made out a shape at the foot of the bed. It was the little girl, her pale figure standing still, her head tilted, a sly grin splitting her face. "Why are you here?" I said, my voice a shaky whisper. I felt like a single candle flickering in a storm. "Because you came," she replied, her voice sweet but chilling. "You want to know my secret." In that moment, something shifted within me. I had to know. I had to understand what was happening. "What secret?" I asked, as much for myself as for her. The girl giggled again, but it felt different now, almost like an echo that brought with it a sense of regret. She stepped backward, almost dancing in the shadows. "The secret of the bear," she chimed, pointing directly at the plush toy in my arms. I frowned, clenching it tightly. "What do you mean?" "Open the locket." She skipped around me, her feet barely making a sound against the floor, as if she glided above it. "If you want to play, you have to open it." As her words circled in mind, I felt pulled toward the bedside table again. The lace-covered box beckoned me once more, but fear clawed at my throat. What if the locket held something I wasn't ready to face? "Don't be scared," she said, her voice now deeper, almost stern. "You're safe with me." I hesitated, weighing my choices. I sensed the locket held answers I couldn't ignore, but every bone in my body screamed to run. I glanced back at the girl, who still swayed gently, eyes wide and expectant. "Please," she urged, her face inching closer in the dim light. "Open it, you'll see." The air grew heavy, and I could feel the walls vibrating with an energy that felt alive. I could no longer tell what was real and what was a trick of the mind. Gathering my courage, I stepped closer to the locket, my heart racing. I reached down, my fingers trembling as I grasped the silver locket, and I felt the warmth radiate from it. I was ready, or at least I thought I was. Before I could pry it open, the lights flickered back on, flooding the room with harsh illumination. I blinked, momentarily disoriented, and when my vision cleared, the girl was gone. The room felt suffocatingly empty now, void of her laughter and presence. I stood still, heart still pounding. The teddy bear felt heavier in my hands, and I could no longer sense the warmth of the locket. Something deep inside me knew I had a choice to make, but now I had to face it alone. That's when I heard the sound of footsteps echoing in the hallway outside. They were not just any footsteps, they felt familiar, yet foreboding. Fear gripped me again. What was coming? I took a breath, preparing for whatever awaited me next. I held my breath, straining to listen. The footsteps grew louder, deliberate, echoing against the walls. My pulse raced, each thud a reminder of my isolation. There was no one else here. The hospital felt like a husk, empty and waiting. I took a cautious step back, retreating toward the window. My heart pounded, and I peered into the dimly lit hallway. Shadows danced in the flickering overhead lights, and I could almost see shapes moving just out of sight. "Hello?" I called out, my voice trembling. "Is someone there?" Silence answered, thick and heavy. But the footsteps continued, creeping closer, now accompanied by a soft, rhythmic tapping. I gripped the teddy bear tighter, half expecting it to offer me some sort of defense. Then I noticed a flicker at the end of the hallway, a faint light shaping into a silhouette. It took form, revealing a figure dressed in scrubs. Relief washed over me at the sight of another human. "Hello?" I tried again, but the words came out more like a plea. The figure moved closer, and I could finally see the face. A nurse, perhaps. But as she came into focus, my stomach dropped. Her eyes were wide and vacant, an endless abyss reflected back at me. She smiled, but there was no warmth behind it. "Can I help you?" she asked, her tone oddly cheerful in stark contrast to her unsettling presence. No, I'm fine. Just working a night shift," I stammered. "What are you doing here?" Her smile widened, stretching unnaturally. "I'm here for the children," she said, her voice lilting as though it were a song. "They're waiting. The children." My heart tightened, recollections of the girl and her laughter crashing over me like waves. "What children?" I asked, trying to keep the tremor from my voice. "Those who need help." She took a step closer and I instinctively backed up, crossing into the room behind me. "You shouldn't be afraid. They just want to play." "I don't want to play," I asserted, but doubt laced my words. The nurse giggled, the sound eerie and disconcerting. "Oh, but you must! Don't you want to know their secrets?" As the air grew colder, I felt the weight of her gaze. I turned to look back at the locket, the silver gleaming in the harsh light. If the locket held the answers, I was trapped here with no way to escape them. "Tell me the secret," I demanded. "What do the children want?" Then, suddenly, she stopped. Her head cocked to the side and she whispered, "They want to share their stories. Just listen." Before I could respond, the nurse turned swiftly, gliding back down the hallway without another word. The sound of her footsteps faded into nothingness, leaving me again in an empty silence that felt almost suffocating. I took a deep breath, battling the sense of dread flooding my chest. I had to make a choice. I had to know. Just then I heard it again, the giggle, soft and haunting, echoing down the corridor. I felt the bear slip from my fingers as I stumbled forward, drawn by the sound. "Wait," I yelled. But the laughter faded, leaving me teetering on the edge of uncertainty. I had to find out who was waiting. I had to dig deeper. Then everything went silent. I stood frozen, the silence wrapping around me like a shroud. The laughter was gone, swallowed by the dark corridor. I took a step forward, hesitating as I peered into the shadows. Deep down, I knew I should turn back, but curiosity gnawed at me. What was out there? Who were the children the nurse spoke of? I pressed on, moving cautiously down the hallway. Every step echoed in the emptiness, my own footsteps underscoring the stillness. Flashes of light flickered above, sending shadows darting like whispers of something unseen. Then I heard it again. A soft thud, like something being dropped. I paused, heart pounding. It came from a nearby room. My instincts screamed at me to go back, but I pushed the door open, hesitantly stepping inside. The room was dim, and I strained to see. The only light came from a small lamp in the corner, barely illuminating the space. It was a patient room, and the bed was empty. Yet something on the floor caught my eye. A small toy. I knelt to pick it up. It was a tiny doll, its face scratched and worn. I could almost hear the whispers of laughter again, mingled with sorrow. But my attention was distracted by a faint light behind the curtain. I moved the fabric aside and gasped. There was a child sitting there, her features pale and fragile. She had dark hair, and her eyes shone with an otherworldly glow. It was as if she was both there and not, a flickering shadow of a girl. "Are you lost?" she asked, tilting her head curiously. No. I'm just checking," I managed to say, trying to mask the tremor in my voice. "Everyone here is lost," she replied softly. "But it's okay. We wear our stories like blankets." "What do you mean?" I asked, feeling drawn to her, desperate for answers. "The nurse told you about us, didn't she?" She shifted, but her body seemed almost translucent. "We play games, and sometimes we share stories, if you listen." I swallowed hard, glancing back at the door. Before I could finish, the girl stood up, and the room felt colder. "You should come with me. I can show you." My heart raced with alarm. "Where?" "To the others," she whispered. The words dripped with something sinister, as if she was inviting me into a world I couldn't comprehend. Just then, a loud crash echoed from down the hallway. It startled me, making me jump back. I looked toward where the noise had come from. Panic surged within me. "I can't. I have to go," I blurted out. The girl frowned, her features fading like mist. "You'll miss the stories?" I stumbled toward the door, needing to escape the room. As I turned back one last time, she was gone, replaced by empty air. The doll still lay on the floor. Then, I felt it. A chill creeping up my spine, as if someone was watching. I glanced over my shoulder, but there was only darkness. So I backed out of the room, heart racing. I needed to know what was happening. My mind whirled with questions. Were the children really waiting? And what exactly were their stories? Just as I slipped back into the hallway, I heard it again, the haunting laughter echoing around me. It wasn't just the children's laughter anymore. It felt alive, beckoning me back. Panic surged again. I had to follow it. So I did. And deep down, I knew I would never be the same. The laughter wrapped around me like a fog, swirling in and out of reach. I stepped further into the hallway, driven by a mix of fear and intrigue. My heart drummed loudly in my ears as I approached the source, where the shadows danced with an unsettling energy. I couldn't shake the feeling that eyes were on me. I moved cautiously, glancing into the rooms as I passed. They were all empty, filled only with stillness. My breath caught when I spotted a faint glow spilling from the end of the hall. It flickered like a candle, beckoning me closer. I turned the corner and found another patient room, door slightly ajar. I pushed it open slowly. Inside, the light came from an old projector at the foot of the bed, casting black and white images on the wall. My mouth fell open at the sight. The film showed children laughing and playing in a sunlit park. But something was wrong. The scene played in reverse, the joy unraveling into silence. Suddenly the projector sputtered and stopped. The room fell silent, and the air felt heavier. I turned to leave, but stopped when I heard a soft voice. You shouldn't leave yet." It was a different child this time, standing in the far corner. He had curly blonde hair and wore clothes that seemed to belong to another time. "You need to see the end," he said, his eyes wide with something between excitement and urgency. "See what?" I murmured, stepping back. "The stories," he replied, glancing toward the projector. "They show us who we were, but only if we stay." "I can't," I said, shaking my head. "There's something wrong here." His expression shifted, clouds shadowing his youthful face. "We're not the ones who are wrong." The words hung heavy in the air, chilling me down to my bones. Just then, the lights flickered ominously. A rush of dark energy washed over me, filling the room. A chill clawed up my spine. My instincts screamed for me to escape, but I was rooted to the spot, torn between the familiar horror and the pull of the unknown. Then, a sharp sound, a rattle like metal scraping against concrete. I turned, freaking out as a figure stepped out of the shadows. It was a tall shadow with elongated limbs, far too tall to belong to a child. My breath quickened. "Who are you?" I gasped, darting back, but the figure moved toward the projector. "That's not what you should be afraid of," the blonde boy said, his voice now barely above a whisper. Before I could question him further, the figure lunged at the projection, and the screen flared with light, engulfing the room. I shielded my eyes, holding my breath. I felt drawn forward, as if the safe path I had hoped for was slipping away. Then everything went dark. I stumbled back, falling against the wall. When the light returned, the room was empty again, but the laughter lingered. It echoed in my ears, rising to a crescendo. The projector sat still, the film now dark, but I could feel something was different. The boy's words reverberated in my mind. "You need to see the end." Whatever was happening, I felt like I was getting closer to the truth. But now I was more terrified than ever. I turned to leave, my heart racing. Just as I reached the door, I heard the flickering laughter once more, sounding closer than before. I could still feel the weight of unseen eyes upon me. How could I possibly face whatever hid in the dark? I stepped toward the noise, the call of those stories drawing me in. I couldn't stop now. I had to know. But deep down, I wondered if I truly wanted the answers that awaited me. The laughter grew louder as I stepped back into the hallway. It thrummed through the air, almost like a pulse, vibrating against my skin. It was a familiar sound, yet grotesquely twisted. I could no longer deny it. I needed to confront whatever awaited me. Tentatively, I made my way down the corridor, now even more determined despite the cold sweat forming on my brow. I didn't want to go back to that room, but my curiosity pushed me forward. Each step felt heavy, as if the air thickened around me. In my mind, the image of the tall figure hovered like a dark cloud. Who, or what, was that? The child's warning echoed relentlessly. Did I even want to know the truth? I rounded a corner and spotted another open door. This one looked different, slightly ajar with a faint light spilling out. The laughter faded, replaced with a soft melody. I approached cautiously. I pushed the door open and peered inside. This room was empty except for a single chair in the middle and an antique radio sitting on a small table beside it. The music floated through the air, nostalgic and enchanting. I felt the tug of something, the need to sit and listen. But deep down, I recognized that uninvited curiosity could lead to danger. As I stepped inside, the radio crackled and the melody shifted. It morphed into children's laughter again, but I could hear something hidden beneath. The sound of crying. I stared at the radio, unable to look away. Then a voice broke through the static. "Help us!" it pleaded, raw and hoarse. "We're lost!" I stumbled back, my heart racing. The laughter, the cries, it was all intertwined. Who were these children? How could they be lost? "Who are you?" I yelled into the room, my voice trembling. "Listen." The radio buzzed, and the music faded into a soft whisper. I pressed forward, drawn by an inexplicable pull, not realizing I was losing my grip on reality. My hands reached out, brushing the cold metal of the radio. And that's when I saw it, scrawled on the wall behind the chair, the words twisted and barely legible. Trapped. Everything in me recoiled. I backed away, my stomach turning. I had heard about haunted places, but this felt different. The reality of children's laughter and cries intertwined gripped me with terror. What was this place really hiding? Then an eruption of laughter tore through the air, jubilant and mocking. It echoed off the walls, shaking me to my core. The melody shifted again, and I felt disoriented. The world blurred as I tried to find my footing. Suddenly the door slammed shut. I gasped, the chilling laughter amplifying. I was trapped. I pounded on the door, yelling for someone to hear me, but the sound was swallowed by the chaos around me. My heart raced as panic set in. "Help us!" The voice on the radio called again, almost as if it were somehow tethered to my own fate. I paused, absorbing the weight of those words. I had to help them, didn't I? But how? And just when I thought I might find an answer, the lights flickered violently, casting shadows against the far wall. My pulse raced with the realization that this was far from over. And now I wasn't just searching for answers. I was part of the mystery. I was trapped in the dimly lit room, the laughter still echoing in my ears. I pressed my back against the cool wall, fighting the urge to scream. Then I squinted at the radio. It sat there, unyielding, as if waiting for me to make my next move. "Help us." The voice repeated, softer now, as if it recognized my fear. I had to find a way out, but I also had to know more. I hesitated, heart pounding, then forced myself to approach the radio again. "Who are you?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. The radio crackled again, and the static formed a chorus of childish giggles mixed with desperate cries. "Listen," the voice urged, and suddenly the air felt electric. I leaned closer, my breath catching in my throat. The laughter intensified, echoing as if it came from every corner of the room. Then, without warning, the music stopped. The silence was heavy, stretching on like a taut wire. That's when I noticed it. The chair in the center of the room was slowly tilting, as if someone invisible was just getting up. I bolted back, now convinced I wasn't alone. "No, get away from me!" I shouted, retreating. The radio emitted a low hum, and the laughter morphed once again. It grew darker, more menacing. "Help us!" they cried over and over, and now there was a feeling of urgency. Something terrible was happening. Suddenly a shadow flickered across the wall, darting past the flickering light. I spun around, eyes wide, expecting to see someone or something, but the room was empty again. It was just me and the chilling radio. I snatched my phone from my pocket. I needed to contact someone, anyone. But the moment I turned it on, a surge of static cracked through. The screen flickered ominously, the familiar icons warping and twisting. My hands shook. "Help us." The voice came again, haunting. "Or be trapped like us." That last word hit me like a wave. Trapped. Panic clawed at my throat. I felt the confinement of the room closing in, squeezing the air out of me. I had to escape. I turned back to the door, but it was still solid, unyielding. The radio pulsed with energy, and I was drawn to it again. "You can help us. You must." It felt like a command. "How?" I shouted, frustration bubbling over. My eyes scanned the walls for something, anything, that could give me a clue. Then I saw it. On the other side of the radio, where wood met metal, was a small latch. I reached for it, heart racing. What lay beyond? My fingers brushed it, cold and inviting. Before I could think, I yanked it open. A hidden compartment sprang forth. Inside was a small, faded photograph of a group of children, their faces elated but their eyes empty. In that instant, the laughter returned, louder this time, ringing in my ears. I felt something brush past me, a flicker of movement, chillier than the air. Then everything went dark. The radio sputtered and a new voice emerged. "You shouldn't have done that." My breath caught in my throat. That wasn't the voice from before. I wasn't alone any longer. The darkness enveloped me, thick and suffocating. I felt like I had stepped into a void where time and reality blurred. I blinked, trying to adjust to the sudden shift, but the absence of light left me disoriented. The radio crackled again, its once familiar rhythm now warped, filled with an unsettling urgency. "Why did you open it?" The new voice hissed. There was a sinister edge to its tone, and I fought the terror creeping into my chest. "Who are you?" I stammered, my voice barely rising above a whisper. My heart raced as the laughter returned, mocking and sinister, surrounding me like a tangible force. "I am one of them." The voice slithered through the air. "You released what was hidden. Now you must." Suddenly, the lights flickered back on. The room didn't look as it did before. The walls appeared stained, like they cried out in agony, and dust motes swirled in the harsh light. I blinked again, grappling with the shift. In the corner of my eye, I caught a movement. A dark figure crouched low beside the radio, barely discernible. "Get back!" I yelled, fear igniting my muscles to react. I threw a piece of furniture toward the shadow, but it vanished before it made contact, as if it simply dissolved into the air. My breath quickened. What was happening? "Help us!" echoed from the radio, the children's voices now interwoven with something darker. I turned to the door, feeling the overwhelming urge to get out, but the handle shrieked against my grip, refusing to budge. "Help us!" The voices were relentless, urgent. I was realizing there was no option to ignore them or wait for rescue. I was caught in their game, and time was not on my side. I spun back to the radio, frustration boiling over again. "What do you want from me?" I shouted, my voice cracking. The figure reappeared at the edge of the room, but this time it was clearer. A small child, dressed in what looked like old, ragged clothing. Her eyes stared at me, void of expression, yet she beckoned me closer. "Come play," she whispered, her voice a mere breath. "You can help us." "No, no." I shook my head violently, backing away until I hit the wall behind me. The union of the ghostly laughter and her empty gaze sent chills racing down my spine. "Open the door," the little girl urged, her form dancing as if she was caught in some unholy wind. I felt a magnetic pull toward the radio, drawn by the voices chanting in sync. "Open the door. You're the only one who can." The command felt like a weight pressing against me. It made sense. The door held a secret, perhaps a way to free whatever trapped these children. "What will happen if I do?" I asked, my fear mingling with curiosity. The girl smiled, a wide, impossible grin. "You'll see. But you have to trust us." My instincts screamed to flee, but I was already too deep. The time for hesitation was over. I approached the radio again, reaching for the latch once more. My heart pounded violently against my ribcage, a pulse of dread and anticipation coursing through me. I took a deep breath and pulled the latch open again. That's when I saw it. A small door hidden behind the radio, ajar just enough to reveal a glimpse of hazy blue light. A chill wrapped around me. What awaited on the other side? "Come play," the girl repeated softly, stepping through the doorway. And in that moment, I knew I had a choice to make. I took a steadying breath, my heart racing as I contemplated the narrow doorway glowing with that mysterious blue light. The little girl's gaze was unwavering, her shadow flickering like a candle in the wind. "You have to decide," she urged, her voice now barely more than a whisper. "Will it free you?" I asked, my throat tight. I needed to know what risking myself might mean for her and the others, but the uncertainty hung in the air, thickening my reluctance. In response, her smile widened, an expression that could only be described as both innocent and haunting. It's your choice, but you'll have to let go of fear. Let go of fear. It was easier said than done. I glanced around the room, spotting glimpses of the shadows still wrapped tightly around the corners, and felt the heavy weight of the laughter surrounding me. Taunting footsteps that echoed from the recesses of my mind, chilling my spine. I placed my trembling hands on the edge of the small door, its frame radiating an icy energy. The voices remained insistent, echoing like a siren call. "Help us! Open the door! Come play!" Each word felt like a looming shadow, inching closer, demanding my compliance. I wanted nothing more than to escape. To flee back to the nurse's station, to mundane tasks rather than this nightmare. But what about those children? Could I turn my back on their cries knowing they might still be trapped? I thought of the laughter merging with cries, the unsettling imagery of their hollow eyes. "Please," the girl said again softly, tilting her head as if sensing my hesitation. I took a deep breath as I felt the icy tendrils drawing me in, the weight of my fear conflicting with a new sense of purpose. With trembling fingers I reached for the small door, forcing my heart to calm amidst the storm. I felt the breath of something ancient and untold rushing out from the small opening, awakening hidden promises and forgotten memories. I pushed it further open. As the door creaked wider, the world around me trembled. The shadows howled, their whispers intensifying. I stumbled forward into the bluish light, feeling the air shift and pulse. In that moment, everything around me shattered. The room dissolved, replaced by a vivid tableau of children playing in a sunlit field. The laughter now joyous, rather than menacing. I blinked rapidly, unable to process it. The children danced, their vibrant movements at odds with the cold memories I'd just left behind. But in the background lingered a fog. A distortion of color swirled in the air, a hint of something darker just beyond the brightness. "Join us," they beckoned, their voices mingling with the familiar laughter. "Come play." The chilling reminder of what I had escaped filled me with dread, creating an unfamiliar urgency to leave it all behind. But I saw the little girl again, her face illuminated with a glow that seemed to shift and shimmer. "You can set us free," she said, her eyes locking onto mine. Suddenly, before I could form an answer, the scenery shifted again. All the children froze mid-laughter, like a broken record. I realized they were looking at me, waiting for a response. The joy warped into an unsettling silence, and the laughter faded, dissolving into cries of despair. Shadows crept in around me, entwining with the vibrant scene as if to snuff it out, drawing me back into an abyss. I felt the world tilting and collapsing, enveloping me in darkness once more. I gasped, the confines of reality hitting like ice. I was back in the room with the radio, breathing hard, the echoes of laughter still ringing in my ears. The radio emitted static, a cruel mockery of the freedom I had almost reached. I realized now they were never truly free. "Come back," the voices hissed, heavy with regret and despair. "You opened the door, and now you must decide again." Standing before the radio, the small door behind it gave way to shadows that writhed like serpents, whispering promises of secrets long buried. My heart pounded in my chest as the meaning of their cries settled over me like a cloak. I turned slowly to face the last remnants of the once vibrant scene, the children lingering in my mind, their laughter twisted into anguish. I had come to find them, to understand the secrets, yet every step toward the truth left me unmoored. I still didn't know whether it was natural or supernatural, whether it was a call for help or a game spun from something ancient and dark. But one thing was clear. I had to choose. I had to confront the unknown or remain bound to the echoes of a haunted past. With a pounding heart, I glanced back at the open door, uncertainty crashing through me as the shadows beckoned, the children's laughter and cries entwined. Whatever lay ahead loomed large, an immersion into a world where answers waited and questions deepened. I stepped inside once more, feeling the weight of choice bearing down upon me. I was caught between realms, and though I was terrified, I could no longer back away.